All right, Dave, Mick, thank you.
Hey,
Thank
how
you
are
for
you, Calvin?
joining us, Mick.
G'day,
And Dave,
guys.
yeah, this is a second episode of the Cowbell. It certainly have been ringing. A lot of people have been messaging me, telling us that they really like the first episode, and we are very very grateful to have Mick today joining us as our second guest. I cannot think of anyone more, I guess, more suitable than himself, being extraordinary everyday runner. So I met Mick probably a few weeks ago at GPT 100. And before GPT, I think Mick sent me a message and sort of like introduced himself. And I had a phone call with him and found that like we are very like mind. And his story immediately really inspiring to me. And I was very fortunate that like I get to meet him at GPT and also see him competing the GPT 100. So yeah, thank you, Mick. Would love to hear more about your story today.
Yeah, that's no worries at all, Calvin. Very much appreciated on being on the podcast. It's a great idea and a great concept, and yeah, I'm a bit humbled with what's gone on this year. So um, yeah, no, very thankful.
Mick, you deserve it. And look, I must admit, I also met you for the first time down there at GPT in the Grampians. And let's just take a little moment to actually think about the Grampians for a quick second, as that
Mm.
incredible part of the world is suffering at the moment under
Yeah,
extreme conditions and being ravaged by bushfires. And so our hearts 100% go out to all the people of Garrywood and that region, as they are definitely having an extraordinary Christmas, that's for sure. But Mick, we met you down there at GPT, and mate, we couldn't get rid of you. You were hanging around every night as your team of adaptive athletes were taking on, I guess, the relay there at GPT. And you're an inspiration. You're a story that has to be told and shouted from the rooftops. And so, like Kelvin, I couldn't think of a better, more extraordinary person like your good self to be here on our second episode of the Cowbell. So, Mick, we're going to start off, and this is pretty epic. But please, mate, take us back and tell us a little bit about your background and your story.
yeah, no worries. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for the intro. But Um, I used to get very choked up about telling the story, but the more I tell it, I think the easier it gets. In a way, space to tell it without the the traumas going on. But I prior to my accident, which was in April 2022, I actually fell from the top of a wind turbine. I was a service technician, uh, and I was climbing up the top ladder space to go into the little spaceship bit at the top, I guess is the easiest way to explain it. And I slipped and fell off a ladder, and my legs got caught in the ladder and has had caught and caused a whole heap of complications. And you can paint that picture yourself. But the the actual the fall itself actually, the ladder, my legs getting caught in the ladder probably saved my ass, to be honest. But it really compromised me in my life. I've had 8 major surgeries since, two total foot reconstructions, which means that they've snapped the heel, pulled them back in line, snapped left leg. I've got a fair stack of hardware in these legs as well. And over that journey of, I guess, rehabilitation, not even rehab, I'll call it recovery. I've learned how to walk again 3 times in a period of, 3 years. And the surgeries have been very intense and extreme. And with all those surgeries that I've had, I I then my body became so compromised because I'm a guy that has a go. I won't just stay in bed. I need to keep going. I need to keep um, trying to get going again and keep moving because that's the way I've always lived my life. And if I just wind back now, probably to um, prior to the accident, I wasn't a bad endurance athlete runner. I wasn't a bad um, ultra runner. I enjoyed the desert running more than anything. I had a crack at a world record. I had a course record actually in 2017. 150 k's of the Big Red Run, or the Little Red Run they called it, and that was my introduction to ultra running was that event, and it blew my mind. I ran with a guy called Kay Bretts. Probably most of you would know who Kay is, I'd imagine. And he actually broke the course record for the 250K. So myself and Kay, I couldn't believe how well I went, because before that, I only ran a marathon. I was coached by Dave and Patch Fraser here in Ballarat. They were terrific, and they said, "We reckon you've got something, mate." And it just, after the big red run, it went from there. And you know, my entry into this endurance, I used to bloody hate running. So, it flipped pretty quickly. It's funny how a bit of self-confidence and just being with your pack and your tribe and the community, it just had it all for me. And it was a space that set me free. You know, the further I went, the happier I felt, because I felt freedom. I love being in nature. It's just, that's how I grew up, in the bush. And so that was just it for me. And when I had this accident, I fell into a deep pool. Forget about the physical injuries, the mental space there. I had conditions that I'd never heard of before. You know, like you hear of PTSD and all these, but I had conditions called loss of identity disorder and adjustment syndrome and all these types of things. And they were all very true, because I didn't know who I was, and I just couldn't get my ass out of bed, and it was very, very difficult. It wasn't so much the process of healing, and then I turned to holistic healing, which I knew prior to my running. I'd done a lot. You know, I knew my body very well, as you do when you try and do very difficult things. You have to sort of figure out the best ways to do these types of things. And I knew breath work, and I knew cold plunge and sauna and hot cold and all these different things, and exercise and yoga and all this sort of collective to get moving again. That was the hard part, was actually getting the motivation to move, to get going again. It was bloody hard work, and to get going again. And that's why I've got the Ultra G behind me. It's been a lifesaver, so that I can just get up and get into something and move, so that my body can, or my mind, I had to rebuild, rewire, and recharge. You know, so my feet didn't know. My brain were not connecting to my feet because they were so different. So they were actually rejecting them. So to rewire that took a tremendous amount of work, and it's not over yet. You know, I've got these things called AFOs that I run with, and they're great, but they cause a hell of a lot of damage to my legs, in welts and blisters and cuts and abrasions. And it's been about a 12-month journey with them. But as we get better, and the crutches as well, bloody, you guys seen me doing that at the Grampians, that it's bloody hard to use, you know, and to get used to, and to track. But once I had the opportunity to get going in the space again, I suppose, and that started at the inaugural Ballarat Marathon Festival.
Yeah, you were saying there, I was reading some stuff that you sent through, and you were saying that you thought it might have been your last race, but instead it was the complete opposite.
Yeah, Dave, it was. It ended up being exactly the opposite, because what I thought, it's the inaugural Ballarat Marathon. Look, I was a bit of I don't know if I can say this or not, but I will. I was a bit of a running tart, I suppose. I ran with every running group in the town, and so, you know, I spread myself around. I never stayed to just one group. I ran everywhere.
There's nothing wrong with that, mate. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I hope not. But I loved it, because I loved the different groups and different. I formed my own groups, but anyway, and I thought, you know what, it gave me something to get out of bed for. So, you know, I actually rang up Mona and I said, you know, like, this is what I'll be doing. I'll be on crutches. I don't even know if I'll be able to do it. And he said, yeah, go for it, Mick. Let's do it. And it was going to be my goodbye to running, having all the people there and all the people that I knew, the running community in town. And I thought, that'll be it. I'll just do this thing. I'll smash it out. I don't care how long it takes. And it took me 4 hours to do 21K, and it nearly killed me, but I finished it. And I call it the energy of the people, really, because they're cheering you and let's go, Mick. It's extraordinary, that power, and we've all felt that at the end of a really long, hard event. But it just hit me so hard, and I sat back, and there was someone in the crowd that said, "I wonder what the world record is for running a marathon on crutches." I don't even know who the person was, but that sat in me, and then after I finished and got over it, I thought, well, no, I think this can be the start of something else to show people and give them some form of inspiration to get up off the couch themselves, no matter what conditions they have. Okay, let's have a look at that space. So 2024 has now become the comeback year, I guess, as an adaptive athlete or as a different person, but in a space that I've always loved and enjoyed, and has made me feel good. And so from there, we made a plan to have a crack at the world record for my capacity, which was 7 hours at the Melbourne Marathon, and we broke it. We formed a team, and I needed a team. And Aidan Dobbick, you see him. He's a man mountain. He's my bag carrier. He carries all the bits and pieces in a big bag that I need to get through these events when I have the flare up of complex regional pain syndrome, which is I call that the silent disability. And with silent disabilities, we don't really, they're the ones we don't see. The physical stuff, with the crutches and the AFOs, you can actually see it, and people sympathise with that because they can see it. But if you can't see it, it's not real. That's the sort of world we live in, unfortunately. And it's all these silent disabilities or silent conditions that I call the worst ones, because and that falls into the depression state too. But I suffer greatly with this condition of chronic pain. I live with it every day because of the way my body was so compromised to try and teach these feet to move again. But he carries all the shit, so he's got the hardest job, not me. I just tell him what I need, and he keeps me moving. He's a great motivator. But we made the plan, and it come off, and we completed in 6.5 hours, which is only 10 minutes away from another record, and it's only 5 hours 47 is the record for the whole lot, and we're going to do that this April in the Ballarat Marathon this year, and we'll break the record for all people on crutches, whatever ability they are. And I'm very confident I will with the team around me. So
that's a world record.
Yeah. I currently hold the world record for my capacity. P43 athlete lead in the Paralympic world. That's double lower limb compromise, which I am, both feet, and I also have a neurological condition called complex regional pain syndrome. That's actually called the suicide condition. They don't call it the suicide condition for nothing, and it's not very well known because the studies don't go into that. Like, the studies will go into broken leg and depression and things like that, and give a tablet, but there is no cure for complex regional pain syndrome. It's a condition that comes on when your body becomes so compromised, it shuts down and says, that's enough. We've had enough, because we can't keep you moving, because pain is a safety mechanism. Pain isn't our enemy. Pain is actually our friend. But now we have to rewire the brain to say that Mick Marshall, running is actually safe again, if that makes any sense. It's very difficult to explain, because my neurological wiring now is just to shut me down, because there's so much shit going on down there. There's my brain saying, no way, we don't want you stepping over the line. And that's why I guess I'm an A-type personality. I know who I am. I'm an all-in type of guy. I wear my heart on my sleeve, all that shit. But I wouldn't have it any other way now with this condition, because the alternative for me was to stay on very heavy drugs and be a couch potato and sit and waste my life.
So what thanks, Mick. I think there was a very extraordinary story. I mean, how you, from work injury to gone through that recovery in the last 3 years, and your comeback race, Ballarat Marathon. And since then, you have done Melbourne Marathon, GPT 100, as well as the Hyrox
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was incredible. I mean, to see you completing that race, like, is extraordinary. Especially, I think having that, I think 20 kilo sandbag on your back with
Yeah.
using your hand to support that. Like, I think that's extraordinary. So during
Yeah.
that, like, I guess, I mean, what I really want to know is what really motivates you, like, to get through the most difficult time? Like, was it something that, like, you look forward and see there must be a light in the tunnel that, like, I will get through this,
Yeah.
or something that, like, I want to become, um I want to get back to sort of like endurance running, like so what really driving you through that
Yeah,
time?
you
Yeah.
know, well, I guess what drives me now, Calvin, is that I'm very curious about pain now. I'm very um, interested in it. I used to, most of the time, like pain comes at all different and pain is pain. It doesn't matter if it's a thought pain or if it's physical pain. But there are pains that will stop you, like you break your leg or sprain your ankle or
Mm.
things like that. That's a real effect. But most of the time, pain is just a feeling or a thought, and to override that thought, and we can all override that monkey on our back or things like that. And probably in my previous years, I conditioned myself to just keep going and do a lot of mindset work and visualizations, and it'll be all right. But I've come to the point now with it as an adaptive athlete that the pain comes more often, I
Mm.
guess, or more easily. And at that level of pain, where it says, "Oh, just give up, just quit, just do it," and then you regret it if you do. But so I don't tend to go there now. I'm more curious about that now to say, well, okay, I know this isn't going to last,
Mm.
and this is by no means as bad a pain that that I was in when I was, you know, trying to walk again or getting on the Alter G to move again. That was a different level of pain, but I didn't quit then. So now when I get to, and I'll use GPT as a perfect example. I had 10 hours to the cutoff, and we came into the last, after 22 Ks, I think it was. We came in, we had 10 and a half to go or 11 to go. And one of the guys came up to me and he said, we've got and I was knackered. There was no doubt about it. I was buggered. But we were going to soldier on to the end, no matter what. But the sweepers had caught us, and he goes, I've got a choice. You've got a choice here, Mick. He said, you can stop here with us. You've done a great job. It's fantastic effort. You can stop here with us and we'll celebrate what you've done. It's been magnificent. He said, or you can continue on, but they're packing up at the end and there'll probably be no one there at the end for you when you come home. And I just walked away. I thought, I have to collect my thoughts here. And everything in me said, just stop now. But there was just this one piece of me that said, but if I stop now, I come here to finish, not to start. And it just kept ringing in me, and I was in enormous pain at the time, and I could have very easily stopped, but I turned back around and I said to the guy, well, it's not really a choice. I said, well, if everybody's going to be packing up at the finish line, and I had a thing of ginger beer because that's one of my favourite drinks, and my Naden's favourite, and I said, if the finish line's all packed up, just put a ginger beer where I have to stop. And that'll be my bloody finish line, okay? But when I said that, I couldn't believe the people at the site, and I'm welling now because everybody got behind it. They got on the blower to Colin and said, "This guy's going to keep going," and he said, "Right, let's do whatever we can do to get him home." And when he said that to me, and I'm doing it now, I'm tingling now because that is what this whole game's about. Is getting people to compete and complete, and do the best that they can. If they can't make it, they can. It was so inspiring seeing one of the other Beyond Endurance guys, Dale, the blind guy. He had to get cut out, but he done the best he could. And I knew I wasn't finished, and I did. I went over I came in at 10 and a half hours, half an hour over, and it was funny because Michael Dunstan was doing a bit of photography and videoing me up this hill. And he goes, "You'll be right, Mick." He said, "There's a pinch at the end, and you'll know when you hit the pinch, and going upstairs, and I thought we'd hit the pinch, and then we turned around and we hit the pinch, and I thought, how the hell, I won't swear, how the hell are we going?
No, you're allowed
How
to
the hell
swear.
am I going to do this? And anyway, we had to stop and everything, and we got to the top, and it said 6Ks to go. And I said, I need to rest. I am done. I'd spent all my petrol tickets, and because getting up on those crutches was very difficult. And Aidan done a breathwork session with me, and anyway, I think her name was Julie as a party. I think it was
Yeah, Julie. Yeah.
And she was sitting there on a rock, and she's just asking me about all the complications I've had and why are you doing this. And he had me laying down singing Kumbaya almost, and just breathing and getting myself back into a parasympathetic nervous system, which is a rest and relax state, not a stress state. So it's a method in all this madness. And I had the Sharky mat out. Sharky mat's like laying on a bed of nails, and I had my EMS device giving myself shockwaves through my hands to regulate the pain. And I'm explaining all this equipment that Aidan's pulling out to Julie, and we finished. And I came to, and she, she's just. I looked at her and she said, "Oh, you have made my week. I've never seen anything like this. You're at the top of a mountain, and you're going to finish." I said, "I am. We've got to finish." And I seen tears rolling down her eyes, and it made me emotional because it was an impact with something in it, and I thought that's what I'm here to do, and God love Julie, she's done some amazing stuff herself, and I'm thinking if I can have an impact like that on just one person, I feel my job's done. And so that's the direction now that I'm heading. And I thank BPT. And when I got to the end, I didn't just have a bottle of ginger beer there. There was about 40 people there. And I tell you, I have never been so electrified and emotional at the end. I rang that frigging thing so hard, I think the bell nearly dropped out of it, because it was one powerful most powerful ending of something that I've ever had or experienced in my life. Yeah.
And I was truly gutted not to be there. I had to race back to Halls Gap to get proceedings underway back in Halls Gap. And I'll be honest, Mick, I don't mind saying this, but when we heard you'd just come into that last checkpoint there was a bit of a brains trust that had got together, and there was some hard conversations going on because, I mean, in races, there's cut-off times for a reason. And then when the decision was made, or when there was discussion around you were going to continue no matter what, and as long as, but what unfolded, and I was a bit sad, as I said, not to be there for it. But at first I was probably one of the ones being a little bit stickler for the rule, only knowing that what we'd already been through in the whole event. And I was just
absolutely.
And we don't need to go into that necessarily right here, right now. But obviously through the whole event, it was we were all
torturous event. Yeah,
we were all tested. But so at that point on a Sunday afternoon, I was one of the ones who was probably being a bit of a stickler, and I know who you will. I won't name him, but I know who you're talking about, who was at that checkpoint, who gave you the choice, because then he came to me and I said, "Mate, we shouldn't have given him a choice." And he goes, "No,
that's right."
And he goes, "We had to." And anyway, and I had to eat my hat a little bit, and there's I don't mind saying that, but hearing you just describe that right now makes me, eat humble pie even a bit more. But I knew that, and what I heard and what I was hearing was unfolding back at Dunkeld when I was making my way back to Halls Gap was something truly special. And many people since then, I know, can't stop talking about that moment. So you've got Aidan there, and he's your bag carrier. He doesn't sound like he's just your bag carrier. He's carrying the whole kit and caboodle. He's got the kitchen sink in there as well with the mat and everything else like that.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about other people in your life that have helped you get through this time.
Yeah.
People around you, whether it be in the running community or your own family.
Yeah. Look, I appreciate the question, Dave, because they're the unsung heroes that see you. Like, it's all good to see me go and do an event like that, or the Melbourne Marathon, and people see the result, or the bling, or you know, the capacity or whatever. But what they don't see is the hard work it actually takes, and it's so much more hard work when you have conditions or compromise. Like I've had to turn my whole house around to be able to, you know, I've got sauna and all this shit, you know, to be able to do what I do, and for my, you know, my partner Linda, she's a nurse. She was going through COVID. COVID was a bloody shocking time for everybody, particularly those health carers. Like she'd go to work some days and get, you know, virtually spat on and you know, told, and she'd have to come home, and here I am, all buckled up and can't contribute, you know, and that was very sad to me, and we actually separated for a time because we had to, because she just couldn't cope. She was 24/7, and that was a very testing time for us. We're back together now, and we're working well again. You know, we're starting to get it together again. But the other two are my two boys, Joshua and Jesse. To see their father in a state where prior, look, I was just full of energy. I'd be ripping around the world. I'm doing the thing. I'm a good dad. You know, I'm a provider. You know, we had all the pieces going, and to have it totally flipped 360 for them, not so, and that has an impact on me as well, because you don't feel, you know, and I get it, because you don't feel worthy anymore. You know, your life's completely changed. You're at the back of the bus, and then surgery too. You're at the back of the bus and surgery. You know, learn how to walk 3 times. That's just not a thing that's flippant and you roll off your tongue. Like I had to bloody learn how to walk 3 times, and I didn't have to, but I had to for my people. So, and my parents as well. They're elderly, and they hated seeing me do it. So I remember when I did the Melbourne Marathon, Dad's never really come to many of my events or races. I mean, he's in his mid-late 70s. They were brought up pretty hard. And but I remember seeing him, and everyone goes, "There's your dad," and there's a video shot of Dad, and Dad was crying. I mean, that's how impactful this is, because it's bloody hard, you know. And I couldn't tell you, Dave, how many times I wanted to check out, and I mean that in a, you know, and I hate to say that because I've personally had impact of you know, suicide. I'll call it out, and but I get it. But it was just something into me that I had to have something to hang on to, or put my hat on it, that I'm going to be okay, and that something was me.
Mm.
It had to be me, because all the help and things that are great, they're all great tools. It's got to be you that makes a decision and to be able to ride through it. And I think that's called life. I really do, and I get really mucked up with it, and trying to get it out sometimes. So I should stop soon, because it's my experience. It's not, you know, everybody's experience. But for me, I need to keep pushing on. I need to keep pushing the boundaries. That's where my space is. And it hurts, but I'd rather have, you know, choose your hurt, isn't it, or choose your pain. I'd rather have that pain than the alternative pain. And it's so for my, and thank you for the question, because that's a hard question to answer. But my family has been put through the ringer, and my friends. You know, some stayed and some haven't. Some come and go, and it's a very different life, Dave. But I have to accept that this is who I am now. I'm never going to run a 3-hour marathon again. I'm never going to be able to go out and do a lot of the things that I used to do, but I can still do.
Mm.
And that's how I have to see it.
Yeah, and mate, I mean, you've just called it out as it's your thing, it's your own experience, but it is a shared experience. And it's a little bit what we touched on with Brendan last week, because if we don't share it, like you're doing now, mate, like how powerful it is. But if you don't share it, you can't work through it. And I know for Kelvin and myself, probably if you can't talk about it, well, what can you do? And so
yeah, that's right. And I think
that's why I partly asked the question, Mick, because like
Yeah,
you
big
need to
question.
have you need to have those people around you.
Hard to answer. You do. You need your team, and I'm not only my friends and family. I built this team because that's what I'm good at doing. I'm good at building teams. I've actually figured that out over this process. That's what I'm good at doing. And I was good at. People think this ultra running or endurance running is an individual sport. It's no way. It's an individual sport. I had a great team of people around me when I was doing some pretty good stuff prior, and so I thought I've got to build this team around me to get me back. And so I have a psychologist, I have an EP, I have a pain specialist. I have a physio. I had a great surgeon. I have got a terrific osteo, um, and all these people are on board with me, and they've all said they're all behind me, wanting me to do well and show what I can do. So, and I've also got an orthosis guy for these bloody things, and we mentioned Michael Milton before. I've got him, helping me out. So, and now I'm back in the running community. Then that swell starts to grow, and then we can gain some momentum on what we're doing. And I think I said it. We said it before we got on air. That it's left me now, but it'll come back.
Well, I don't know about you, Kelvin, but that leads really well into then with all of this then, mate, you've got this movement around you now. What's next? Where are we heading with this? What are you passionate about?
I'm intrigued as well as passionate. I guess that's why I did Hyrox. I'd never heard of Hyrox until I did GPT. I sat on a table with people and they're talking about this Hyrox, and they said, "Oh, you should do Hyrox because it's got an adaptive section." And as soon as they said that, I thought I'd give it a crack. And by Christ, that was hard. That's a difficult event, and I won't go into it, but it's bloody hard. And I actually finished it, and I came second in the adaptive section, and I was very proud of that. And I thought, well, there we go. And all I want to do is create space. And so in my comeback season, I've had 4 very big events that I've done that has actually consolidated where my purpose is now, I guess, going forward. And my purpose is to open up the adaptive space, for everybody to have the capacity, to run that, have that 10-hour stop into 10 and a half hours. It took me 10 and a half. I'm not far off. We're not far off. But still, you don't expect places like UTMB, which have an adaptive space, which I hope to do in September. I hope to do the ACC in September if I can get in. That's a goal. That would be awesome because I've always wanted to go over there and do it, and to do it as an adaptive athlete or enabled athlete, who cares? Just to go and experience it and do it would be fantastic. But there's certain criteria to that. And at the moment, none of the events will give much, especially those bigger events, and you'd understand this. They don't give much. If sweeps catch you, you're out. That's it. So I've got to be able to complete that in 14 and a half hours. So I've really got to shave about an hour off the time that I did, that 33K in GPT and run another 15 or 18K. So I think that's very doable because I have the goal. It's like, if you got nothing to aim for, you never hit anything, do you? But so I've got a target, and we'll have a crack at it. But in the meantime, there's some qualifying events to get in there. In February, I'm going to have a crack at the 50K at Hut to Hut. I know that's a toughie.
Wow. Yes.
We'll see how we go. I think that's got more elevation than anything. So it'll probably be another bloody world record. I don't even know. The most vert on crutches. There's world records for everything nowadays. But that's not the point. The point is to actually inspire people to get up. My passion is to inspire people. Doesn't matter a condition, because it's those silent diseases, the silent conditions, the silent disabilities, the tough ones and the mental ones, the mental health ones. That if I can do it, and if I can just get people's juices flowing a little bit by them being an example of them seeing me do something, it's not job done, but it's job started. to start showing people that, a lot of people go on about we're limitless and all this sort of stuff, and I think we are fairly untapped. But when you sit in the moment and right now, it takes a lot of effort to get up when you're down in these holes. It takes a lot of work and a lot of hard work. And if anyone has got any tips, like you said before, Dave, it's important to share it, because I don't have the answers. I'm not about to fix people, but what I am about is opening up the conversation of, how did you do that? How did we overcome it? And now I'm curious about pain. I'm not saying I go to bed and sleep like a baby every night. I certainly do not. But what I do now is I have goals, and I have some intent, and I have a purpose again. And that purpose, I tell you, one thing I used to do is I had to, with this condition, I had to get, I'd always go back to my bed because I couldn't, pee, for example. Like I had this thing I had to pee out of because I couldn't walk. And so I'd actually get up and sit up and pee in this thing next to my bed. And I thought, now that I'm up, I'm going to make my goddamn bed so I don't hop back in it, so I don't stay in it. And it could be that simple. And that's what was simple for me. That's way before I tried to start doing all these running events, and that was to just, when I got up, I made my bed so I wouldn't hop back in my bed again. And then I'd go and lay on the couch and sleep. But it sounds stupid, but it was a step forward. I wasn't going back to bed. And it's those little things that we have to do. Otherwise, we get conditioned and we form habits, and we can go down rabbit holes. But again, like we've already talked about, it's having that team around you. I had plenty of support and team that I thought I didn't have. You think you're on your own, but you never are. And through this now, I train really hard now. I set up a 3-hour protocol every day, and I thought I've got to use this 3-hour protocol. And that's what started me doing these events. And the Alter G, it cost me a shit ton of money, so I've got to use it. So, yeah. And I'm really looking forward to 2025 as not the comeback year, as the year that, because this ride's very personal as well, that I get to live some of my dreams, like go to UTMB, hopefully, or, if I don't, I'm still going to do events that, I've always wanted to do and dreamed of doing, just as a different sort of human body, I guess.
Oh, mate, I could listen to you for a long time, Nick.
Well, you're one of very few, Dave.
That's all right. That's all right. You've got it's so hard to encapsulate a lot of the energy that's there in one of these podcasts. But it's Kelvin and I, the three of us were just chatting beforehand there, and we were talking about that adaptive space and what's happening in that community. And I mentioned a few names to you, the guys and you mentioned Michael Milton, who's been doing this for a long time. And then I mentioned a guy like Troy Sachs, who's a former Paralympian, who's also doing some incredible stuff in this adaptive space. He actually just went out and broke a world record for 50K. He's the fastest 50Ks on a treadmill there earlier this year. So,
wow,
it's you mentioned it as well. It's networking in this space. I mean, there's a lot of famous. That's probably not the right word, but there's a lot of well-known adaptive athletes out there. But then there's people like yourself who we're learning about, right? We're learning about right now.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I'd love to be able to connect you with some of those people that I know in that space, because there's collectively, I reckon that you lot have, and I say that flippantly, but I mean it quite genuinely, but a common voice, I think, will get heard. So
yeah, I think right. Yeah, that's spot on. Yeah.
What are you aiming towards in that adaptive space? Because obviously not every event, particularly in ultra running, caters for that.
No, they don't. There's one thing that's going on, and I'm very lucky when I talk about teams. And I'll just touch on this one too. One of the biggest reasons I got back into running again was I'm wearing their shirt, Ultra, and this is by no means an advert for Ultra runners, but what they did do was they were with me prior to when I was not bad at it. I was in their red team, and they're great bunch of blokes and women, and the community was what fitted me. It was a great community to be involved in. And then I had the accident, and I rang them up because there was applications to get back in the red team again, and I rang Fiona Tarrant up. They run the show here in Australia, and I said to Fiona, I said, I'm going to put in, I think, because I need something. I need something to get me out of bed. And I said, I don't expect to be on the team or anything, but this is what's happened to me. And they accepted me into the red team. Now, I wasn't going to be winning any medals for them. I wasn't going to be podium. I wasn't even going to be putting much on social media or anything. But them to say, Mick, we're with you, and it could have been anybody, but it was these guys. That was another thing that got me going again, Dave. That was another thing that gave me a purpose. I thought, well, these guys think I can do it, and they backed me to the hilt, and they sent me some runners in the mail, and I'm thinking, I can't even use them. But it was great. But it was great because I was part of a community, and that's that community spirit and that community edge. And this ultra running community or trail running community or endurance community, I'll include the Hyrox type element into that as well. It's incredibly humble, and it's incredibly there is no real big egos in there, because if you've got a big ego, you get dropped off pretty quick off the back of the bus, because you just can't do it. You can't do it. You just can't get through it. And there's nothing wrong with an ego. We all need one, but it tempers it, if that makes sense. And they're just the most fantastic bunch of people I've ever met. So moving forward for me, there is a documentary coming out that is being done about my journey and my comeback. It'll be out early next year sometime. It includes the 4 events that I done in my comeback time and world records and all that. But what it is really hitting home on is you've got to fight the fight. You've got to fight your fight. You've got to dig the heels in, and you've got to say, no, I've got to find a way to move forward, because it's cyclic. It doesn't last. It never does. It never does. It hasn't yet with me. I'm not always happy, but you're never sad all the time, because we're meant to be. We're meant to be challenged. We're meant to be. It's how our systems work, and for us to say it's okay. It's actually okay to feel shit.
Yep.
It's not unusual. It's actually okay, to feel lonely. It's okay to feel sad. But tomorrow you might feel happy, or go and do something that's going to help that cause. It's going to get the endorphins going, or I'm not a big science dude, but for me it's always been running in some format, and I call running. It's all running, now it's all running to me. I don't care, because I used to coach running, and I'd say to people, put your hand up. Who here thinks they can't run? And they'd all put their bloody hand up. And I'd say, well, come with me. And then we'd jog down to the corner, and I'd say, now who thinks they can't run? And they'd all still put their hand up. It's because they're comparing themselves to other people. They said, I can't run as good as. And I said, well, forget everyone else. Just what about you? You just ran. Don't tell me you didn't run. You just ran. And they all agreed, but then they keep going back and saying, well, I didn't run as good. But again, so it's training. And now me as an adaptive guy, I'm training again. Can I not run? Yeah, I can. I think you can run in a wheelchair. It doesn't matter, But that's where I've got my headspace around. So for me, the sky's the limit moving forward, to open this space up in this country so that people can actually have a crack at these events, I guess, guys, in the space, if they are whatever they are. And I do have to hand it out to the guys at GPT. They did have the balls to let us do it and complete. But I'm hoping that's the pioneer stage. That's the start. You know, that's the start of something instead of it just fading away. You know, let's not let it fade away. Let's keep trying to kick it in the ass a bit and keep presenting and see where that can go. And I'm grateful for all the help. If there is a help there, feed me, feed me, because I just want to see people get moving at the end of the day, whether you're able. But we've all got our stories, and mine's just another one. It's nothing spectacular, but what it is hopefully inspiring enough to get some people cracking.
Yeah, that's awesome, Mick. I really like the fact that like you sort of trailblazing in this space. And I mean, being at the Hyrox event when, if you remember, the race director, sorry, I forgot her name. She came to talk to you and sort of like telling you what was the format like for adaptive athlete in
that's right.
Like, yeah. And just by hearing her and also another I guess staff from Hyrox, they have no clue like how to format that for you guys, like, so they
didn't
actually trailblazing, like, but they are willing to take the plunge and try it. And if you remember, she said that last year they had less than a handful of adaptive athletes.
I had two.
Yeah, two, right? Like, so you put them on podium, guarantee. But this year, I mean, you have 10. Is it 10 or 9? Yeah. So it's like five times.
Somewhere around that. And they were ecstatic.
Yeah.
And they had to compromise, because look, we're all different too, aren't we? So as an adaptive athlete, they have to fit you into a space, I guess. And for me, I've got lower limb disability or compromised, whatever you want to call it. But I also have a neurological condition. So there was a bit of confusion. Which one will I go in? Because I actually do have these both of them, but they had to fit me into one because I couldn't share it. So they gave me the lower limb. And that's why, for me, that sandbag thing, that was excruciating on my neurological condition, because the pain that was going through my feet was pretty intense. So
I was next to you,
But they can't compromise on that one because I was already an adaptive athlete in the lower limb condition. They said to me afterwards that we're going to get better at that. But see that in 1 year go fivefold at Hyrox, which is thousands, millions of people do that event. Yeah. I would love to see an adaptive athlete space for endurance running or ultra running, and my wish has actually come through because PSER have announced that they've got an adaptive section in November. And that is just, call it the universe speaking or irony, I don't know, because that happened 2 days after. They announced that 2 days after our team done GPT. So I reckon that's just brilliant. So,
absolutely. Well, we may be getting way ahead of ourselves, but if they're talking about getting trail running into the Olympics for, what is it, 2020, 2035 in Queensland?
2032.
2032,
I've got it written
down. Why don't we have an adaptive trail running section in the Paralympics?
That is where they're looking at it, actually, as I've looked at that too. And in 2032, they're hoping in the Brisbane Games to introduce trail running. And if they do introduce it, it'll be in the Paralympics as well. So, what a great thing to have. So the adaptive space really opens up, doesn't it? And introducing trail running got to be a hell of a lot better than breakdancing, doesn't it?
As long as you're out there doing the kangaroo, mate, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, that's wow. After what we've listened, your incredible, extraordinary story, Mick, that's almost a good place to start to think about wrapping it up. One question that now is going to become our little tagline here at the Cowbell is, we'd like to hear from you. And I think you've already answered this, actually. So maybe you might have to wrap it up, or maybe you've thought of something completely different. But we would like to know, what's your cowbell moment? What's that moment that when you're running in the finish line or you hear a cowbell out on course, that just rings true for you?
Wow. Can I have two?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Look, one of them was definitely when I was saying goodbye to running. I thought it was going to be the last time I ever ran, was the Ballarat Half Marathon. Just coming up that home straight, it's about 500 metres. And the roar of the people, there would have been about 700 or 800 people there, just all encouraging me on. And I call that the energy of people. And I do it now. I'm doing it now. It just makes the hair on my back just, I've gone back there. Just the power of people when we've all got this drive in us to encourage people and get them home. And so that's number one. And number two, it has to be GPT. The finish there was so unexpected. And again, it's the community. It's not the run itself. It's just people and humans is that being shot and finished, but then, Colin says, let's go, let's get him home then, bugger it. And I mean, I'm sure the pressure was on, like you said, but to come around that turn, I expected a ginger beer. But I got 40 or 50 people there just, again, it was that energy that I felt, and I can't let that go. It's more than running. It's more than anything for people to experience that. And I have never, ever rang a cowbell so bloody hard. And that's called the cowbell thing. I never have. I rang it with passion because I had my teammates around me, and I have never felt that before in my life, that type of feeling. I've won things and, you do all these things, but that energy of people, it's actually exhausting as well. So, they're my definite two moments that I would call that the energy of people.
Oh, mate, it has been so good to chat to you. I think, Kelvin, what we're going to have to do here is make sure that we do some follow-up episodes with some of our guests, particularly you, Mick. You've got some big goals for 2025 that I'm going to be keeping a close eye on.
Now you got buggered.
But we'll get you, and this is Kelvin. We've definitely unleashed a beast here, not just in Mick, but in, I think what we're doing here is hearing extraordinary stories, because it's very hard to. I've already said it, but it's very hard to encapsulate it into 45 minutes of chat over a Zoom call.
Great, kudos to you guys. It's
great. I'll sign off by saying, Mick, I can't thank you enough. What a way to hear your story here, and thank you. And we'll definitely be catching up with you in 2025. And Kelvin, I'll let you wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you, Mick. I think such an extraordinary story. I think, you definitely will inspire a lot of people out there. Not only the adaptive athlete, but also ordinary people that just basically think differently and take the plunge and try to challenge themselves. Thank you so much, Mick, and I wish you all the best and good luck. So your next race will be in Archie 50K, was it? Is it?
Yeah, in February, the Hut
Okay.
50K, which will be very testing. And now, if Dave's watching, I'm stuck to it now, aren't I?
I've got you. I've got you saved on Strava. I've got you saved on Strava, mate. There's no escape.
That's right. It doesn't happen on Strava. It doesn't happen at all.
That's right.
But no, look, fellas, I really appreciate being asked to come on, and I'm so thankful and that we can be all listened to and heard, and it doesn't have to be all so bloody serious either. I hate being too serious. I'm not a serious guy, and I've had to be for a very long time. So hopefully the gentle side comes out. But yeah, thanks very much, and I hope the cowbell goes absolutely nuts, and I think it will. It's a great concept, and I've enjoyed actually being on it. And I reckon we've gone way over our 45 minutes.
That's all good, mate. It's all good. I'll let Kelvin hit stop.
All right. Thank you, mate. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.